So, can you tell us a little bit about what like first drew you towards wanting to direct this show?
It's probably about 17-ish years ago. I saw the play on Broadway with Daniel Radcliffe and Richard Griffiths, and it has haunted me in my mind ever since then.
People talked about it, and like I heard like, oh, it was really good. Then it kind of dropped off my mind until I found a copy of it randomly in a free bin at the end of the year. I was like, oh, I'll take this and I'll go read it, and I did. And it's weird to say like it's like a real play, but like it feels much more like real life than a lot of things I've read, you know, and it goes deeper than a lot of things I've read.
I was so interested in the story. I was very much interested in the detective aspect of it.
It is something new every time. It's like an Easter egg every time you come and see it, which is a pitch for seeing it more than once, because you see it that first time and accept it at face value, but the depth of the characters. But also there's pieces of the potentially traumatic elements, right? And I always say potentially traumatic elements serve to kind of push the story forward. So how do we put that on stage where everyone has consented to what's being done at all points in the process, so that it's being done with folks, including the audience, right? The audience sometimes are some forgotten folks in the process, is because it's being done to them, right? And so how do you do things such as this to be able to provide additional information and answer questions that sometimes folks don't get answers to because lights go up, actors bow, and then traditionally you leave, and you're supposed to sit with that.
There are many productions that are like heavy productions. I've seen productions of Laramie Project that the actors don't come out and bow because they want the audience to sit with that tension. I don't want you to. We've told a story. The story's done. We're just actors here. Thank you for watching our work. And hopefully with this website, with the interviews, that the audience will be able to leave the theater, not be held hostage, if you will, with a talkback, and they can explore what we're doing to take care of the actors, so they know that the ultimate care has been taken to take care of the actors, performers, or production team, and the audience. So the crux of the work that we've done is called consent-based practice. And from even before we even held auditions, we were involving consent-based work. From the pre-reading that we did, we even recorded the conversation that happened at the pre-reading and sent to all the students. So everyone had an opportunity to read the show before, as well as hear what we were going to do with the show before they even auditioned. Students could opt into auditioning or not auditioning for the show, and then auditioning for specific roles within the show. So once we got the show cast and we started rehearsals, that, like I said, the consent-based work has been the crux of everything that we've done.
I'm struggling getting like it to go.
It can be moved. Okay. So we can do what you want to do. Okay. So you've done your boundary checks?
Yes.
From check-ins every night to are you comfortable with what we've staged tonight? If you're not comfortable, tell me, and we can tell the story a different way. We've invoked that several times throughout the process, and there's more to come. They know, the actors know that they have that opportunity to hold, button, pause, and revoke that consent of what we're doing, and we can change it all the way through the end of the run of the show. So that goes with the nudity, the intimacy, just the storytelling itself with the violence, everything from the beginning of the story to the end. They have control.
I wouldn't have done this project if I wasn't so confident in our ability to be safe. You know, with Jimmy at the helm, I know he is so focused on what trauma-informed practice looks like that I knew I would be safe.
Definitely a point of concern for me prior to the rehearsal process or going into it was the safety that we'd feel throughout the process. But then again, even within the first week, Adam and Jimmy kind of reminded me that I had like nothing to worry about. It's funny because of how intense this show is again, but this is like the safest I've felt for a rehearsal process that I've been involved in. And it's never felt so professional either. Like I feel so taken care of, and I know the rest of the cast can attest for that too. with the practices we put in place.
I think a really important thing for me was just how open like Jimmy has been as a director. Like he's always been very open with like being able to come to him and kind of went in, like I said, completely cold. I had no idea what it was about. So when I did read it first through, it was very shocking and kind of it is very intimidating to go through. But throughout this process, I have felt very safe as a designer.
Jimmy does have a debrief form that we can all fill out. It's not a requirement at all, but there is a debrief form for us to fill out just to kind of provide feedback on what's happening in the rehearsal room.
That could be anonymous or not, where it just asks you like, did you feel safe physically in rehearsal? Did you feel safe like emotionally? Or like leaving rehearsal, do you feel safe emotionally or physically? And were your boundaries respected? Do the consent practices help you? Like, and then there's like a box to like explain why, if you want, or you don't have to.
Don't want to make it a requirement because we don't want it to feel like homework for anyone. But it's just a way where it's like 30 seconds after the show, 1 minute after the show, and so forth all the way up to one day. And then we have 30 minutes before pre-show and then during pre-show where they can fill out ways they're going to take care of themselves as human beings.
So sometimes I go through it really quick and I just answer like whatever I'm feeling like, or sometimes I type things out and explain more. But yeah, it's just like questions to make sure you're like all good after rehearsal.
It's not even just focus on what an actor does, because as crew members, yeah, we are watching the show every single day, and it's always the same thing.
The rolling process certainly helps a lot, and the fact that we end every rehearsal with the derolling process it's very helpful for like this.
Because every night we talk about I am not my character and my character is not me.
I am, say your name.
I am.
Today I played. I am not my character.
I am not my character.
My character is not me.
My character is not me.
In order to separate from those spaces, so that they're not taking aspects of that character with them or other characters, right? Alan gets slapped in the show, and so the person who's doing the slapping needs to know that they did not slap anyone that evening.
I will leave my character in this room until we meet again.
I will leave my character in this room until we meet again.
I will work on my lines and character outside.
I will work on my lines and character outside.
But I am not my character.
But I am not my character.
And my character is not me.
And my character is not me.
Big breath in. Exhale. One more big breath in. And exhale. All right.
They did not slap anyone that evening physically, because that doesn't occur, but also emotionally. That person did not slap the other person. This character smacked this character during practice.
It's been really fun watching them watching the actors take that and create their own process with that, because it's not something we teach.
For me, at least, just going that drive home, throw on some Steely Dan, and I just allowing myself to kind of take that like drive home to relax and separate those characters.
I will tell you that, again, walking the walk conversation is not pulling from personal experience or sharing personal experience as a motivation for the actor, because that's not relevant, that's not important, right? And so if we've experienced something personally that is very close to what you may be seeing, and instinctually you want to share that story to kind of give source of motivation, but removing that because we do not want the actors to go too deep into these characters either, not because it doesn't make for good acting, but because they're doing a phenomenal job performing these characters, hopefully without identifying themselves as the characters.
And personally, I can speak on the behalf of our stage management team, we all try to like end the day on a really, really good note, not in a bad mood. We try to discuss just like things that we're gonna do tomorrow that are fun. We try to like mess around. I have a Snoopy stuffed animal that sits on the table. He's our friend. I have candy that I offer everyone. I kind of just provide as much positivity as possible, so that we're not all just focusing on the dark stuff.
In my research, we found that theater teachers don't think about their tech staff. They don't think about their tech kids who have to watch this night after night, who have to see it more than some of the actors, because some of the actors aren't even on stage to see some of it. So my stage management team, who's watching this every night, they get to step out of the room if it's too much for them. They get to call button. I do a very different de-rolling with them because I think it's a very different process. It's a very different group of people who are needing to do that. So I check in after rehearsal. How are you doing? And we play an upbeat song to leave the room. And my stage manager makes sure that she sends her daily call out before we leave the room. So when she closes her laptop, she's done with the show for the night. She doesn't go home and keep working on it. We're done for the night. Yeah. We work on it in this room. And it's the same with the actors. And I'm hoping the audience will get that as well. There's even a moment in the show where the doctor is calming down Alan after the big climactic moment in the show. And he's literally looking around the audience, encouraging them to breathe in and out and to calm after this moment before we finish telling our story. And to know it's a story.
I hope everybody kind of realizes that just because someone does bad things doesn't mean that person's a bad person. I think after watching the show, you can come to the conclusion that Alan's not a bad person. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, gouging out the eyes of 6 horses is kind of horrifying, but obviously he's very ill, and I hope everybody doesn't leave thinking he's the villain, because he really does need help.
Even though it's intense, even though it goes places that I think a lot of scripts and stories like are kind of afraid to go, especially in modern day. I think even though it has all those appalling aspects, I think it's really, really beautiful and well crafted.
Real quick, did Jimmy tell you about Spring Awakening?
No.
Has he told you the Spring Awakening story? All right, so I will share the Spring Awakening story. So before Jimmy moved to Illinois, he was still in South Carolina, and he was directing the non-musical version of Spring Awakening. So he was backstage during the show, and I was watching, and I couldn't help but be kind of stuck in the moment of a pretty particular scene. And so when it was over, I talked to Jimmy about, well, I'm wondering what kind of support has been offered for your team as they've been watching this. And he's like, well, what do you mean? And it's like, well, if you watch this over and over again, and if you do this over and over again, I'm curious about the toll that it takes on the person's body and mind. And that was kind of the beginning of mine and Jimmy's work together.
That spawned my other research in trauma-informed work with teachers, with theater teachers specifically. I've interviewed teachers all over the country about their practices and what they do to take care of their kids when they do challenging work. And what I've found is that theater teachers want to take care of their kids, but they don't know how. And that's where I've partnered with Adam Carter, my husband, who's served as the mental health consultant on this show. And that's where our research our worlds overlap, where he's a mental health professional. His focus is trauma-informed work with young people, and mine is working with future teachers. And that's kind of where our worlds collided.
We started to look at how to do trauma-informed practices in theater. Specifically, we have just got feedback on an article on doing trauma-informed practices in schools. We've interviewed teachers about what they're doing in schools right now, and what we found largely is that there is no trauma-informed training specifically for theater educators. So what theater educators are doing is their absolute best, and oftentimes what has been done with or to them. Right? And so if they've received the message that you need to push through it, or the show must go on at any cost, or good actors, and then fill in the blank with usually pretty toxic traits, that's what they replicate, because that's what's been given to them outside of formalized training. So Jimmy and I, what our work is together right now is talking about how we formalize that process of doing some professional development for teachers on how to incorporate these more potentially traumatic themes.
So we've developed a process through those interviews, utilizing mental health techniques, while consistently reminding theater teachers that you're not a therapist, that your role is not a therapist. These are therapeutic techniques but you don't get to do therapy. You are not trained for that, which is why I have him as part of the show. And it has been a slap in the face a couple of times in the rehearsal process that I'm not the person equipped to do this. And thank God he's there to talk with the actors when something happens. So we're incorporating all those strategies that we've researched and kind of put together as almost a method or a system of directing.
Mine and Jimmy's work is not designed to remove traumatic elements from storytelling on stage by any stretch of the imagination. I think a lot of times that's what folks think we're initially trying to do, is trying to remove that. That's not the plan. The plan is, how do you do those safely? And that's why I think this show should be done, because one, it's being done safely. It's being done in a way where every person is consenting to what is occurring at any point in time. Not only what is occurring on stage as the actor, but also what is occurring as crew members are in that process, right? And so the people who have to hear what's going on over and over again through headphones to manage sound, folks who are putting light on certain things, like I said, the directors who are helping to tell and to bring a story to life, all of that is consent-based. If it's not consent-based, I think it is unhealthy. And I do think it could potentially be problematic to put on stage if you're not centering your cast and crew wellness. This production has done that. It strives to, right? I don't want to say we pat ourselves on the back because we're not finished. Because even when the show's finished, we're not finished, right? Because it's not over when the show's over, because the conversation still continues. So how do we continue to provide support even post strike? Right, the set's gone, the new show's gone up. I think Murder is now on. What do we do? What do we do after that? And the show has taken that into consideration.